Welcome to Generational Differences with Beckham and Brett.
Remember, like, in in Top Gun, of that one part of where they had to, like, face 10 G's, like a multiple amount of G's, and one of the people just passed out in the plane while the other guy was like, oh crap, he just passed out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, jackalopes down or something.
Jackalopes down. I don't think his flight name was Jackalope.
I'm
I
just
think
saying.
was it Jackal?
Yeah.
I don't think somebody
I
would want to
forgot
be.
the name, so I just...
I don't think they want their call sign to be Jackalope.
Yeah.
Jackalope down. I'm calling for Chupacabra. Jackalope down. Jackalope down.
It's like an antelope mixed with a jackal.
And we're back for episode 6 of Generational Differences.
Yeah. For
On
the
a
6th episode.
and it's Ash Wednesday today.
Yes, it is. We're gonna
We're
have
gonna
ash marked on our heads.
we are headed out to get ash marked on our heads here and probably about.
Yep.
But today's topic, you wanted to talk about AI, right? Why don't you why don't you why don't you go into what you want to talk about, and we'll take it.
So, yeah, AI is just this one condensed dot that basically it's a word, feeder. Basically, you feed it words and it'll recognize those words. Guess what's gonna come next? So if you say, AI, make an image of, let's say, a cat, it'll recognize that word and get the knowledge of what a cat is and then make its own cat, but it can't copy and paste. It actually has to do pixel by pixel, new picture. That means, like, basically, if you say to recreate it differently, it might just put a different background and use the same thing. Or if you just want to change one thing, it'll change the entire structure of the entire thing, and then it'll be this annoying, complex thing of where you're like, no, make it not Christmassy. Make it comic, like filtered and stuff, so like the little black and like white dots. But then like it adds in a superhero, and you say, no, add the superhero out. It can be annoying and then sometimes a lifesaver.
Yeah, you're right. So I think what you were saying there at the very start is you have to feed a bunch of words and things like that into it, and that's called an LLM, or a large language model, and that's so basically it's a huge database of all the knowledge that the AI can have. So that's why, the companies need that. They need data to feed into it. So yeah.
Of course they do.
Yeah. So you were doing cat pictures with it? Is that is that what I take from this?
That was just like something, and also it doesn't just create images, it can also create words and also word art of where like it can create a sandwich out of just like dots and dashes and like slashes and letters and special characters. It's actually a very nice art, and people use it all the time. Like that that smiley face of one, the equals, and then the parentheses. That's basically what it is. But then people take it to this giant scale and make like this giant sandwich. It's pretty cool. But I wanted to make a picture of a giant finger, just that, a giant finger, and it created dirty socks for some reason. Dirty socks.
You asked it to create a finger and it created dirty socks instead.
Yeah, it was supposed to create a hand, but instead it made dirty socks.
That's seems like their language model's off a little.
I'm not pointing out which one it is.
Yeah.
But this can happen sometimes. There's always model errors. Like, code may be a string of words that could technically create the foundation of robots, which normally don't do stuff wrong, but errors are an occurrence. Even if the code is perfect, the the entire thing is based off of this giant computer. It's basically based off of your own computer and a giant server model. If the server model has problems, then the AI will have the same problem of AI modeling, and that's basically how it works. It's basically this giant thing, and if you don't give it the right things, it'll
It's
just
it's not
if it,
necessarily
even
the
if you do
wrong
give it the
things.
right
It's just
things.
that the model didn't have enough data, and the way that
Yeah.
it interpreted it is wrong. And so what you're talking about is, like, to your point, they're called hallucinations.
Yeah,
So
AI
AI calls they're called
hallucinations.
AI hallucinations. And so, like, yeah, you were like, give me a hand, and instead it gave you dirty socks. So, like, or when it starts like making stuff up, like it'll make up history and things like that. That's when the language models don't have enough data, and then it tries to like stitch things together, and it stitches it together wrong. But yeah.
Yeah, kind of like if you create a video, sometimes you'll see something moving backwards. Like, you'll see it walking the same way it would moving forwards, but instead it looks like someone took the rewind button and it's going like backwards of what they already did. So then they're going back. That happens actually a lot, and then it becomes confusing. But good AIs that do follow that do actually do stuff normally don't do that. They just kind of like, act normal, and they actually stitch together like pictures and stuff properly. And AI can just generate history that happened. AI can generate these really highly accurate photos, like looking photos, and they're not really real.
Deep
Like a
fakes, right?
picture of flat Earth.
Deep
Earth.
fakes.
Yep, deep fakes. I wanted to say that word, but I didn't know if it was real or not. Thank you
Yep,
for
it is.
clarifying that.
Yeah, there's a big problem with that now, especially with like a lot of celebrity videos and even like presidents and things like that. It's a valid concern right now that AI images and AI video and AI voice are so well generated that you're going to have a hard time delineating the difference between what was real and what's fiction. And that's so a lot of the misinformation out there, some of the misinformation out there is generated by.
Well, I just want to clarify that too. Like, do over it. You know those like videos that you've seen of where like Barack Obama and Trump and like and that other guy, that other Democrat, what was his name? Joe Biden. Joe Biden. And they're all like sitting together, and they're talking about what they are. And you know it's not real, but like it sounds real, and it has like a Minecraft of somebody doing Minecraft parkour in the background, and it sounds so real, and it sounds so correct that it's you could if you put down also a video that lip syncs and makes it so that it's like it is exactly like that, well then that would just be crazy
I
because
saw
it would be fake.
I
But
just I saw a crazy video actually the other day. You know how we were talking the other day about Zelensky and Trump meeting at the White House.
yeah.
So somebody made an AI video where Trump's like, "You don't seem to understand. I hold all the cards here." And then like the AI video like shows like Zelensky holding all the cards. He's like, "No, I have the cards." And then they start doing like card tricks and like flinging cards around, and then JD Vance and then JD Vance starts like throwing up cards out of his mouth onto the table.
You
And
gotta
then he did
show
all
me
these
that
dumb card
sometime.
things. It was funny. So that's the kind of stuff you're talking about, huh?
Yeah, basically
What
somebody can make up some photorealistic type of video with like sound realistic sound, and create this super immersive video that looks like it's real, but it's a deep fake.
Yeah, they can. So which different AIs have you used, and which one's your favorite, and which ones do you not like so much? And what do you know about it? You list them first, which ones you know.
Okay, I know ChatGPT and Copilot, but those are the two I've used. The ones I know are DeepSeek, OpenAI, Copilot, ChatGPT, and I think that's it. Those are the four main ones I know.
Yep, yep. And so which one, so you've used Copilot
And
and ChatGPT.
ChatGPT.
Which one do you like better?
Well, I will say ChatGPT can be annoying with its roadblocks and what they use with like money and stuff. Like you need subscriptions to like do stuff. That's annoying. Yeah, but it can sometimes actually have better results than Copilot. It doesn't have a paywall, and it's actually from Microsoft, which is a big company, but it sometimes doesn't create the best stuff.
I think one of the only ones you missed was Google has Gemini.
Gemini, I have. Oh, yeah,
Forgot about
Gemini.
Gemini.
That
No,
one.
you forgot something. The world's coming to an end.
It isn't. But basically, those are the five biggest AI AI models out there. That's what I'm calling them. And technically, somebody in China in their basement could steal AI from code from say Copilot, make it like more precise and better and deep and like almost like DeepSeek, but just as good at but like no paywall like Copilot, and make it even like better. And that's what happened. DeepSeek is something made from
Well, we
China.
don't know that for sure, but it's
We
highly
don't.
suspect that yes, I think
It's
you're
highly
right.
suspect.
So they took one of the large the LLMs or one of the AIs there, they took it and it's assumed that they took that and they made it more efficient. So like as Nvidia. So Nvidia, your GPU in your computer, that's got an Nvidia GPU in it. So it takes a lot of
GPU.
those are used for mining Bitcoin, but they're also used in AI. So and it needs a ton of processing power to be able to for AI to work. So not the problem, but DeepSeek is using those same learning models, but they've somehow made it efficient so that it doesn't consume as much processing power. Like it consumes a fraction of the processing power that OpenAI, Gemini, Copilot
All of
all.
them.
Yeah, so you don't need all these server farms to run AI, or you won't need as many server farms, and so they're kind of it's competition, and I think it's competition that took the U.S. by surprise. But China has a long history of espionage. I remember when I first was getting into cybersecurity, I think it was either Northrop Grumman or one of those other companies that has uh, contracts with the government for all the fighter jets and like top secret stuff, and they got hacked, and China stole all the blueprints for like stealth fighters and everything else. Yeah, it was a big deal. It was a big hack. So they have a long history of stealing intellectual property. If somebody talks about IP or intellectual property or copyrighted stuff, they have a long history of stealing it and then modifying it and actually making improvements on it. But it's illegal and it's wrong and it ticks a lot of people off. And that's kind of what they think is going on with DeepSeek.
Yeah, and by the way, I just want to throw this out here, but have you ever seen race car drivers' necks?
What does that have to do with AI?
No, it just popped into my head, but it's a fact. Race car drivers' heads are supposed to be like these bulky things that are supposed to support the weight
Next.
of their head when they're driving like 200 miles an hour, like around in circles. It's
Mm-hmm.
just they like have to have a thick and like really good neck to support their own like head,
Mm-hmm.
because their head for some reason why just gets heavier, and if that happens their neck snaps, and it can happen if it gets too severe.
Are you talking about like the G-force and being in a race car?
Basically, G's are like basically how much gravity. So 1 G is about the same gravity as Earth. 2 G's are about 2 times the gravity of Earth. 10 G's are 10 times the gravity of Earth. And if you're sitting in a plane and you experience 10 G's, if you look at yourself, it looks like you age 40 years because your skin gets pulled back and wrinkled, and like all this weird stuff happens.
Mm-hmm. Is that why you went there to race car drivers and airplane pilots? Because I mentioned Northrop Grumman and all the like fighter jets.
Basically,
Okay.
it was like very like weakly linked, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right, and they have to test folks because people have higher tolerances to G-force, like they pass out sooner than others, and so that's part of pilot training. And then now
Yep.
they also have, I think they've got like specialized pants and things like that that actually help with blood flow to keep you from passing out, or
Heard,
specialized suits. Sorry, not pants.
but
What did
I've
you
heard.
hear?
Remember, like in in Top Gun, of that one part of where they had to like face 10 G's, like a multiple amount of G's, and one of the people just passed out in the plane while the other guy was like, "Oh crap, he just passed out."
Mm-hmm.
Like jackalopes down or something.
Jackalopes down. I don't was his I don't think his flight name was Jackalope.
I'm
I
just
think
saying.
was it Jackal?
Yeah.
I don't think somebody
I
would want to
forgot
be.
the name, so I just.
I don't think they want their call sign to be Jackalope.
Yeah.
Jackalope down. I'm calling for Chupacabra. Jackalope down. Jackalope down.
It's like an antelope mixed with a jackal.
It's no, a jackalope is a jackrabbit with horns. They're- Um, so a little bit of a digression there. So AI, what do you think about what are your thoughts what are your final thoughts, I suppose, on AI? What do you have to say?
3 things. 1, AI can be used as a weapon. 2, AI can also be used as something medical and can actually help people if you use it right. 3, AI can sometimes make mistakes. I know they're artificial intelligence, and what I mean by artificial, they mean like a robot is literally just a mind that is controlling a screen, typing in pixels. So it can do anything it wants. AI can become a sentient robot that can take over the world, even though that's pretty sci-fi, but it can happen. Have any of you seen that alien android? It went crazy.
Well, there's plenty of stories about AI going crazy and overtaking the world. There's a lot of
Yeah,
them.
but then they just sometimes go crazy because of the stress, and they just.
Are you talking about Hal?
Yeah, I'm talking about him.
Hal and Dave?
Yep.
I'm sorry, I can't do that, Dave. We should watch that sometime. It's a bit of a slow movie for you, but you would
Alien?
no. Uh, oh, what is it called? 2001: Space Odyssey.
Oh.
That's about a rogue AI in a ship that like takes over and traps this guy. There's all sorts of crazy rogue AI movies. Um,
Yeah, Alien might not be one of them since they're about an alien, hence the name. But AI does go crazy in the movie and decides to kill basically the
Oh, yeah,
human.
you're right. The yeah, that is technically AI. The android in it.
Android, that's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
In the second one, he doesn't go crazy. He actually just severs part of his body off from the alien queen.
All right. So those are your final thoughts on AI?
Yep, those were my final thoughts.
All right. Well, we'll wrap this up and take a quick break, and then we'll be back for our next session. And we're back for our next section, which picked the topic of astronomy. So I think that's probably because you were watching Neil deGrasse Tyson on Hot Ones, and he was going into an astronomy lesson while eating really hot wings.
Yeah, I watched that like just this day while we're recording, and funny enough, yeah, he gives a good point of that nobody's basically special because the most active elements in the world are, well, coincidentally, the four main ingredients that humans make, which is a. I'm gonna have to.
Four basic elements. Well, what
Yeah, four.
elements are you talking about?
Well, one of them's hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, and I think there's one more.
That's all right if you don't know all of them.
Yeah,
That's
no,
good
but
recollection.
basically, those are the four that basically have created most of the universe and were start and coincidentally one of the four main ingredients in human beings. So they're pretty chill. So
So you're saying that we're not unique?
we're basically not unique since we're basically stars at that point. We're stars and other matters like we're basically a plain meteorite or a giant supermassive star.
We're just all made of stars.
Basically, if you want to think that way, but more like a bunch of rocks compiled into these one sentient beings.
So do you think there's aliens out there?
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna be honest. There's 100% sure that there's an aliens. You know how many planets that could be suitable for aliens that is basically just like this one?
How many?
More than a billion. So much more than a billion. That has billions of chances to create multi-celled organisms or single-celled organisms or maybe just plants. Technically, plants are different species of, thing because it doesn't matter. It's still a string of organisms still living in one multi-celled organism. It doesn't matter. There's still DNA. There's still multiple things in it. It doesn't matter if it's not, sentient. It's still that way, but basically there's definitely a chance of aliens. I just can't hammer it. And the most funniest part, those thing from The Quiet Place in basically every alien movie?
I don't, but go ahead.
Basically, all of those worlds and all of those little monsters that you see in the movies,
Mm-hmm.
they have a chance of actually like being like hyper like they might just be the exact same acid blood on a xenomorph. There, you get a xenomorph that's acid blood. Oh, it's parasitic with a face hugger. There's a face hugger. Oh, it's a queen that kind of is like an ant species. There's an ant species queen like structure. There's probably a chance of a xenomorph living there. And same with those death angels from A Quiet Place. There's probably that out there. And I'm gonna be honest, the Martians, they might not live on Mars. Actually, Mars is basically unsuitable. But it doesn't matter. That species of life form could live that's very hyper technologically advanced. Have you ever thought of that?
So you're saying like you're saying, well, do you think it's probable, like you make a good point, sentient versus non-sentient. So you said there's plants and single-celled organisms, right?
Yeah, those are
You,
technically.
do you think that we'd find those within our solar system?
Well, we're gonna mark off Pluto immediately. It's just an ice ball. Titan, I would say, could exist with their atmosphere, even though it's kind of pneumonia waters. But other than that, Titan's pretty suitable. Saturn, Jupiter, no, there's just gas on that planet. Something that, like, the only way for it to move around is by gathering up the atoms in the air and then turning them to like these really hot atoms and then shooting them off like a jet engine. That's actually a very. There's one in Kurt's Gazette all about these figurative aliens, and basically the idea of the sky whales and everything in that one is pretty on point of how something would live in there in a planet like a gas giant. So I'd say that that will be true, and but no, our Jupiter has a very condensed gravity that will pull anything to the ground, which there isn't any ground, may I add, and the toxic gases wouldn't be suitable for any type of alien, even if it can live in different places like it.
What about Europa? What's your thoughts on Europa?
Europa is very active, but it doesn't have the ingredients that
Doesn't it have an
has it.
ocean underneath it? Isn't it?
It does have an ocean, same like Titan, but it just kind of doesn't hit like Titan because it doesn't have an atmosphere. The
Well, it doesn't need to
radiation would
have,
kill any monster.
but it has an underwater ocean. So or it's got an under ice ocean. So there's like, I can't remember how many hundreds of feet of ice, but they think that there's actually liquid water underneath.
There probably is, but radiation is pretty hard to like make it so that ice blocks it. Atmosphere is very special because it protects ionizing radiation, which can basically travel through many things. And basically, if you don't have an atmosphere, your planet's screwed. I just have to say that. It's gonna be not successful, so you always have to have an atmosphere.
Well, but like fish don't need atmosphere, right? They live under the water.
So here's the thing, fish do need an atmosphere because atmospheres also make it so that heat stays in. Guess what happens if there's no atmosphere? The fish freeze or they get killed by radiation. Which death do you choose? Radiation or freezing to death? Yeah, so fish also kind of need an atmosphere. You know how like Venus is one of the hottest planets in the solar system, but it's not the closest.
Mm-hmm.
It's because of its sulfur acid atmosphere. So that one's checked off. Same with Mercury. It's basically just like the moon, by the way. Moon's not suitable, Mars is not suitable. Basically a bunch of planets aren't suitable, but Titan and Europa, it has this small chance of actually, it's a canonically small chance, but it could happen. But Titan is the one that would stay victor for its.
But you don't think any of the aliens on those are sentient, like they know?
Well, here's the thing. Titan could actually have multi-celled, but not smart enough to like build civilizations and stuff out of, yeah.
So what? So you wanted to? We got off on aliens there. What do you also want to talk about as far as like astronomy? What are there some other topics that you wanted to?
Okay, let's start off with the basics of how stars are made because basically, remember those four things that I was talking about? Nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon?
Building blocks of life, yes.
Yep. Those are the things that create stardust, which was created when the Big Bang happened. When the Big Bang happened, the universe was rich with those materials. They've slowly started vanishing, but we don't know how because atoms can't be destroyed. They're the smallest things in the world. How can they be destroyed? But basically, atoms are made by quarks. Quarks are the smallest thing in the universe. Yeah, and so
And
technically you can
what is a
destroy.
quark? What's the definition of a quark?
Technically, quarks are the building blocks of life. Technically, because quarks are the atoms that create the building blocks of life, like bigger building blocks. But quarks, they come in different types. So I'd say that there are 10 to 8 types. I'd say I don't remember the number and I don't remember the names as clear. But there are 8, and they come up with and make different atoms and shapes. So that's of what it is.
Do you remember any of the names of the quarks?
I do remember one, and it's named Strange Quark.
Why are they called a strange quark?
Well, because any matter that they touch will become different. It'll warp it basically into something different. You see that planet Earth? Flick a quark over there, and it'll become a strange Earth because of that quark. It contaminates other quarks, making them strange, which in total creates this giant chain reaction of strange quarks. But other than that, quarks are the building blocks. Next is molecules that create actual resources that things can use if they bind together properly. Stars, and if those stars, while they're being created, make planets, then those planets could have a chance to making these atoms that create life forms.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, and those life forms could adapt to become these multi-celled organisms via humans, rats, anything that you think of that's, an animal, plant, anything.
Would you say they're going to they're going to adapt to their environment, right?
Basically, yeah, they'll group together and try and basically and if they become like these multi-celled organisms, all of the other multi-celled would try and live with them in harmony. So then if another
I
species
don't think they
of
live in
cell,
harmony.
not all because
Typically,
of different
I was going to say they
blobs of cells plus blobs of cells, sometimes they don't act well with each other. They'll sometimes try and fight, kill, eat each
it's
other or whatever.
competition, yeah.
It is a competition, survival of the fittest, you could say. Basically, whoever mutates the best to their environment becomes the winner. If you say that there's
Well,
a bunch of predators
I
in
don't
the
think that
ocean,
I'm going to stop you there. I would hesitate to say mutates to the best of their
their environment.
environment because you make it sound like they're actively trying to mutate. It's more that
They're
it's
not
a
trying to,
statistical probability that if a certain mutation happens and it makes it more like that organism and that generation, it gives them an upper hand in
exactly.
acquiring resources, then that mutation, the environment favors that mutation. But it's not that like a single celled organism is like, oh, I'm gonna band together with a bunch of other cells and create an eyeball. It's more that
It just happened
over
on random and it.
over millions and millions of generations that it evolves to whatever thrives best in that environment.
Basically, basically what your is what it is. If if say there are a lot of monsters in the water, there actually will be a higher probability that they'll form legs. Like it'll recognize their issue and be like, "Oh, we need to be on land," and then they'll go on land. But then they realize the land also can be non-efficient in some sources. So amphibians are made.
That's a good point. Yeah. So like what you're saying there is that fish, they had modified fins and then they got to where they could spend a certain amount of time on land. And so
Mhm.
to your point, they could avoid larger predators because they're out of the water, whereas some of
Mhm.
the other generations that hadn't been able to spend any time out of the water, which means they're going to live longer which means that they're going to be able to produce more offspring, and those offspring will then thrive more because they have the ability to go up on land for a short period of time.
Yeah, and then it'll become this thing of where like I can stay on land for as long as I want, and that's how reptilians were made and dinosaurs were made. After that, some of the dinosaurs were wiped out at the ice age that was started by Yellowstone's Mountain, which will encore the starting of a new age, and the pterodactyls that did live will become birds, and then apes would also be created, which turned into humans in some random chance, or Neanderthals, I should say. And then that became humans because they evolved over time in different ways.
By the way, just to circle back around on quarks, there are 6 different types of quarks, apparently. And
Oh,
they're up, down, charm, strange, like you were talking about,
yep,
top, and bottom.
exactly. And those are basically the 6 foundations of the entire universe.
Do you know what a charm quark?
No, please enlighten me.
I don't know either. I'm just asking you. I have no
No.
idea. You know more about that stuff than I do.
Basically, after like some time, then we get to where we are now, and which is humans, which evolve and make changes and also find resources and how to use them in certain ways, like radiation. And who did that again? Please tell me.
Who? I don't know.
Radiation, who got radion. I think her like name was
Oh, yeah. I know what you were talking. The woman who discovered.
yeah,
Yeah.
discovered radiation in some limestone.
Yeah. I don't remember. Can you remember? You should remember.
I actually don't know, but the first radiation molecule that it was named, its name was radon. After that, more radioactive like materials popped up, including bismuth, which, funny enough, when bismuth was first discovered, they
It,
didn't think it was radioactive.
Marie Curie, right?
Yeah, Marie Curie. But they thought for a long time that bismuth wasn't actually radioactive until they found out that their actual radiation state, which is the deterioration of molecules which could make heat, was 4.5 billion years. Do you hear that, Dad?
Hmm. Wow.
4.5 billion.
Years.
It is.
All
So
right.
that's
We're getting way off topic. We started on astronomy and we've like migrated to 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 radiation, but I like these talks.
physics, which
Now
is
we're into
kind of
physics.
loosely.
We are into physics.
We started with stars, planets, and we're basically laying out the
And then we went
entire
into evolution, and then you started talking. I guess we did talk
Darwin.
about radiation a little bit early on, so,
Darwin.
and Darwin.
First, actually, funny enough, radiation played a big role in the first like seconds in the universe.
Do you remember
There's
what
this.
Darwin's ship was named that went to the Galapagos? It was the Beagle.
It's a beagle. That's funny.
Any more thoughts on astronomy?
Well, I do have one more mass that I do want to talk about, but it doesn't really get thrown around much because it's so elusive.
Yeah. What's that?
I fanboy over it actually. Black holes. These.
Oh yes.
Okay, so I want to say something ironic about black holes. They have such a gravitational like pull that if light like gets too close to them, it'll suck them down. So not even light can escape. But if they're accretion disks, which was the thing around it that like makes it, which heats it up, which makes it brighter and stuff, that gives it its disk look, can shine brighter than the sun in its entire lifetime. Like if every photon was in one dot, the black hole that will make how many photons it will make in 1 second
Mm-hmm.
would like be exponentially bigger than that one. It's
Wow.
actually really ironic, but black holes are created when stars explode, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when gravity wins, it'll compress into this little ball that's smaller than an atom, but there are multiple atoms, so then when gravity takes over, it becomes this giant, like, it eats itself and becomes a black hole. That bursts, and then it'll grow from how much mass it eats. It'll become these giant circular masses that are hard to see, but they basically bend time around its own thing because of relativity. Relativity is like time, and if gravity can distort relativity, Einstein's theory, and that's just weird, right, Dad? And that's
Mm-hmm.
it about basically every mass in the galaxy. Of course, there are more like nebulas, which are cool, but
Yeah.
yep, that's basically everything.
Yeah, isn't the only thing you can see, they think you can see around a black hole is the accretion disk, right?
Yep, and the only thing that you really can't see because it's just a black dot is the event horizon. The actual thing is the singularity, which actually isn't like in person, but in the future. Like it's not in front of you, but it is, but it's gonna be in the future, and it's like breaks everybody's mind because it's just so freaking mind-boggling.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, I think that was a we're doing we got to wrap up here pretty quick.
Yep.
Any final thoughts on astronomy? Closing comments?
Yeah, no, but I was gonna say something funny, like a Gravity Falls reference, but I just couldn't
You couldn't
say it
really.
because it's so fast.
That's okay. That's all right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everyone for tuning in this week.
Yep.
It was a lot of fun, and we'll see you
Yeah.
again next week. Beckham, you want
Okay.
to take us out?
Yep.
All right.
Today's show was produced by Beckham and Brett. You can find us on YouTube and Spotify. Please subscribe to the show anywhere you listen to podcasts. Reach out with any questions, comments, or potential topics. We will respond. Have a great week.